And welcome everyone to another Smart Money Circle episode. I'm Adam Sarhan. With me today is Ryan Eisenman, who's the co-founder and CEO at Arch. They're doing a lot of interesting things. Before we dive into that, Ryan, I want to thank you kindly for your time and welcome you to the Smart Money Circle.
Yeah, my pleasure. Adam, thanks for having me.
So I always like to begin, Ryan, can you please tell us your story and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, well, the way we got here is one of our investors, Neil Blumenthal, was on Smart Money Circle and had great things to say. So excited to follow in his footsteps. The overall Arch story starts kind of about 8 years ago. Um, Gave a pitch to a venture capitalist around how private markets needed to have digital solutions, and there needed to be solutions for capital calls and K1s and all the investor reporting that comes from every private equity manager. And his eyes lit up and he was like, yes, please, I would love to be a customer, and you should meet these two engineers that are interested in similar things. Maybe the three of you would want to work together. So that's how I met Jason and Joel, the two Arch co-founders. Joel's our CTO, Jason runs product, and we started working on making private markets an easier place to be an investor.
Okay, I'm going to ask you some more questions about your journey up until then, if that's okay. Can you
Yeah.
elaborate a little bit? What gave you that idea? Where did the spark come from? What was your background before? How'd you get there, so to speak?
Yeah. Really lucky that I had a few internship experiences and early work experiences in venture capital and in the investment advisory space. And my dad was an advisor, so saw some of the pain points in various places. And then everyone that I just started to talk to about this problem that just started to stick out of my mind was like, yes, this is really painful. In public markets, you have Schwab, Robinhood, E-Trade, MorganStanley.com, all these great platforms to see all your holdings in one platform. Your tax information is consolidated. You can understand what you own and how those investments are performing. And in private markets, state of the art is like Intralinks, Carta, Juniper Square, Data Exchange, all these like one-off platforms that don't speak to each other. They're mostly legacy versions of like a Dropbox, and that make it hard for the end investor that needs to pay their capital calls on time and understand their commitments to actually do that, because they have to go into a portal, pull down a document, read it, and then put numbers into some system. And so everyone we talked to in early days was like, there's got to be a better way. Our life has gotten worse with technology, not better, because we used to just get all these statements sent to us. Now I have to log into some portal and I don't know my password and I have to reset it. And sometimes it doesn't take the password. And so it was just like continually hearing that customer pain point led us to have a lot of conviction of we should start a company. We raised a very small amount of venture capital from that first investor that connected my co-founders and I together. And then we were in business at the beginning of 2018.
Wow, I love that. Okay, actually, that's when I started the podcast, so it's around the same time. Okay, congrats on the success, and I love the
You
idea,
too.
by the way. Perfect segue to the business. Please tell us about what you do, some of your competitive advantages, and anywhere you want to go, please.
Yeah. So where we're going is building like the Schwab for private markets. What does that mean? So what we do today, whether it's a family office or an individual or a wealth management firm or a bank, and we're also working with institutions, when they come on board, they might have a dozen private placements and PE style investments, or they might have 10 or 20,000 investments. We connect to all the issuers of information for those investments, collect every document they send, capital calls, K1s, account statements, et cetera, and then digitize them. So when you log into Arch, it's much closer to like the logging into a brokerage account experience. I can see every investment held by every entity. I can see all my cash flows. I have simple performance metrics. My tax documents are organized and consolidated in a place my accounting can log into and access information. And we're finding that as private equity firms sell more of their products, not just to institutional allocators, but to the wealth channel and to individuals, you have people that aren't used to dealing with this type of clunky portal and interface that need a modern digital experience. But let's not overlook the original institutional allocators, even though they've been in private markets for decades and are used to having a lot of volume, they're still also struggling with their workflows, because when someone is spending all day collecting documents, it means they can't do something else that's more valuable for those organizations. And this is also where modern advances in AI can really help, because we can bring like the first digital, instantly available summary of an investor letter to market. So you don't have to pour through dozens or hundreds of pages of documents to know what happened at Blackstone this last quarter. So structuring that information in a way that's consumable to the real humans on the other side of this industry.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So I love that niche that you're filling, the Schwab for private markets, because to your point, it is very difficult to consolidate all that, and there should be in one simple platform where you can see your portfolio and see the various different metrics and the investments and how they're performing and all that fun stuff. So I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Let's talk about risk management. Ryan, what are some lessons you've learned about risk? How do you handle risk? You have lots of people that manage risk all day. What are
Yeah.
some lessons of risk management you'd like to share with the audience, please?
Yeah. There's an anecdote that comes from one of our clients that runs a very large private equity firm. And he essentially was like, I am a great fiduciary at my day job, but I didn't realize that I'm actually a bad fiduciary with my own personal investments. Because sometimes even individuals will make so many investments that they don't know where those investments are or how those investments are performing or which managers are good and which managers are bad and where they should continue to allocate capital. So we think it's nearly impossible to manage risk if you don't understand risk and if you don't have good data. So while our backbone as a platform is to save people time by automating these clunky workflows, what you get out of that is really clean, standardized data of all your investments, which can allow you to much more quickly and easily understand where does risk lie in your portfolio, what's performing well, where might you want to like change some of your behaviors and change your decisions. So that's what we're ultimately looking to power and give people better frameworks for making those types of decisions. So it might even be like a simple way of knowing, oh, here's how much venture capital I have versus credit funds. And then we also have a way to look into your funds to understand what your actual underlying exposure is. So say like OpenAI just announced they're going to go public. There's a chance that you might own OpenAI directly, but also through different funds. And so we have this tool we call look throughs that allows you to understand what's my OpenAI exposure across every place where I might have exposure so that when they go public, I can decide, am I a buyer? Am I a seller? Am I holding? Maybe there's like really good commentary coming from some of the managers I've allocated to. I can search for that within the platform. And so we're trying to bring these powerful tools for management to the market in a way that are really simple to leverage.
I'm sure a lot of the audience, which are largely investors of different shapes and sizes, are going to ask, does your tool incorporate private and public, or is it only just private investments? In other words, can I see my stock portfolio as well so I can have an overall view, or is it just private for now?
We focus predominantly on private markets. We include hedge funds in that definition. And so we'll also track hedge fund holdings. And then some of our clients will ask us to go and pull brokerage statements and 1099s to help with that workflow as well. So we're starting to do a little bit there, but the focus is predominantly on private markets where we think there's the most pain, but also the most alpha today.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, let's talk about timeless lessons, Ryan, that you've learned along the way that you'd like to share with the audience in business, life, anywhere you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the hardest things for us when we started the company was getting people to maybe it's not like take us seriously, but to use a product when it's early and new. And I like the old adage, ask for money, get advice, ask for advice, you get money. I think oftentimes like when you're a young company or just starting with something, it's much easier for someone to like give you advice and build a relationship over time. And then when you have this relationship over time, you become a line, not a dot. Because the first time that you meet someone, it's like, okay, this is where I think they are. But then if you meet them multiple times, you can see like growth and trajectory. And so we've been able to get some fairly large clients early onboarded onto Arch by developing that relationship early, allowing them to see where we're going and understand here's the product I'm buying today. Here's the team I'm working with today, but also here's where they're going based on what I've seen in the past.
Yeah, I love that. And then how about the flip side of that, timeless mistakes that either you've made, you've seen other people make. How do you learn from them so you don't repeat them?
Yeah. Um, I think it's hard to know if this is a mistake or not, but we were really conservative when we first got started financially because the biggest rule for any young company is don't die. And why do most companies die? They run out of money. And so we had raised about $500,000 in 2018. We still had over half of it left in 2021 and had hired two people and had started to see some organic growth within our business. So it allowed us to raise a real institutional round and start to really grow as a company. But knowing what we know now, we probably could have been a little bit more aggressive because it's like this works. We have product market fit. There's a big market here, and so we need to make sure that we're building quickly and kind of reaching the market.
No, I love that. Let's talk about leadership. What makes a great leader, and what are some lessons about leadership that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, we're learning a lot about leadership every day. I think we're really lucky that we have a great team that will check us or give us feedback when things aren't going as well or when there are things we can improve. And so the thing that's most top of mind to me is like, I think just having that expectation of we're open to learning and open to hard feedback so that we can get better. Because the goal for us is get 1% better every day, continually improve. Know we're going to make mistakes along the way, but as long as we learn from our mistakes, then it's not really a mistake. And so that's a big thing we focus on.
Absolutely love it. Okay, let's talk about the other side of that, which are some adversity, obstacles. Being successful, you have to overcome adversity. So, how do you handle adversity, and what are some obstacles you had to overcome along the way?
Yeah, I think kind of going back to that, like getting the industry to take us seriously, like there are much, much bigger companies that we compete with. And so when we're up against a much bigger company that has raised hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars, how do we create trust with our clients so that they know this is why Arch matters, this is why Arch is going to be here, here's the team that I'm working with, and this is why they care. And so now we're quite a bit bigger than when we started. We're nearly 200 people. We work with 500 clients, have 280 billion in assets on the platform. Four of the top 20 banks and seven of the top 25 accounting firms use us in different ways. So we have like these really good use cases that we can point to. So now we're kind of straddling this like, hey, we're not like a massive faceless enterprise yet, but we have like a lot of process and a lot of structure and some big companies we can point to, but we're still scrappy at our heart. And so we never want to lose that like scrappy mindset and that ability to really solve a customer's problem when they have problems. So just yesterday, we announced a partnership with Schwab to pull 1099s into Arch in addition to K1s. Because one of our big clients said, hey, this is a big pain point for us. And we'd love to use your tax solution as our tax solution for every tax document. And there's all these other tax documents that you're not pulling today that we're pulling manually. And so that's that ability to hear a problem, work with our customers to create a solution and then bring that solution to market is a big part of our DNA that we don't want to lose.
Oh, there you go. So we were talking about the stocks thing earlier. I guess you're going in that direction anyway. So that worked. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So final question for you, Ryan. What is the best piece of advice you'd like to give the audience or your 20-year-old self?
I think just keep learning. And there are so many ways to learn these days. I love podcasts personally because I don't get quite as much time as I'd like to read. Some people love like talking to their chat GPT or their AI assistant and asking it questions. You can find a YouTube video on almost everything. And so I think the more that we can learn, the more we can do. And so that's something I think about a lot.
Absolutely. That's the whole point of the show is get timeless advice from the smart money. So thank you, Ryan, kindly for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing. Congrats on your success, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thanks, Adam.